Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hogue, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbook, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
Listen to real English, and when you hear a new word, you write it down. Or when you're reading a storybook and you see a new word, you write it down. But do not just write down that word. You want to write down the whole phrase or sentence that it's in. Why do we do this? What's the power of phrases? Well, phrases give you a lot of information, much more information. Number one, phrases are easier to remember because they have meaning. They have a kind of a picture, a story, especially when you get them from something that you're reading or listening to. You'll remember it. John hates ice cream. You remember the whole story. You remember who John is. You remember that he had ice cream, and then you remember he hated it. He didn't like it. Right? So you have all these extra pieces of information. All this extra information helps you remember the meaning of the phrase and the meaning of that word. So it helps your memory. Much easier to remember. Number two, there's a bonus. When you learn phrases, you are learning grammar also. You're not only learning an individual word, you're learning grammar. You're learning how to use that word correctly. You don't need to think about the grammar. You don't need to know the rules. It's automatic. This is another way that native speakers learn English grammar. Because when we're children, we learn with phrases. We learn groups of words, not just one word by one word by one word. But when you learn a whole phrase, you write down the phrase, you're getting extra information. Maybe you don't know it, but you are. For example, John hates ice cream. Just that word, that S on the end, hates, right? John hates. Well, you know from grammar study that you're making the subject and the verb agree. But you don't need to think about that. Just write down the phrase, John hates ice cream, and study it and review it. Always learn the phrase, not just that word. And so in the future, whenever you say, he hates ice cream, she hates ice cream, you will add that S, the S, right? Because that's how you learned it. You learned it correctly. You learned it from a phrase. Secret number two is this. Never again study grammar rules. Now, I know this may be a big surprise. This is a surprise for a lot of people, for a lot of our students, a lot of our subscribers, a lot of our members. When they first hear this rule, they're shocked, they're surprised, and they think, well, is that true? Could that be possible? Maybe you're feeling a little unsure about this particular secret or rule. Well, that's natural. The reason it seems shocking or surprising is that all your life that you have been learning English, your teachers have been telling you, study grammar, study grammar, study grammar. Grammar is the secret. Grammar is the secret to English. Grammar, 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 grammar. I don't know exactly when you started studying English, but I'm sure that in school, your teachers told you grammar was the key. Grammar was super important. You had to study all these grammar rules. You had to know the past and the past perfect and the present perfect and the present progressive and the future perfect progressive. You had to know what all of that stuff was and how to do all of the changes to the verbs. And you had to know possessives, of course. And then there were all the prepositions, endless grammar. You had to memorize all of these rules. And probably most of your English classes were focused on these grammar rules. And then taking tests about these grammar rules. It doesn't work. Stop doing it. You're finished. In our system, no grammar rule study. Now some people, when they hear this, they think, no, that's not right. And they don't believe me. So I have only one question for you. You have been learning these grammar rules for years and years and years. My simple question is, did it work? Can you now speak English easily, quickly, and automatically? Is your grammar correct when you speak? Or do you still make mistakes with simple grammar like the past tense? And yet you know so much grammar. I guarantee you know more grammar than I do. Because I don't think about this stuff when I speak English. I just use it automatically. I don't need to think about the past tense or the present perfect or anything else. It just comes out correctly usually. When you speak your own language, do you think about grammar rules? Of course not. See, here's the problem with grammar rules. They cause you to think about English. So you are always analyzing it, meaning you're always thinking about it all the time. Now for writing, that's okay. Well, because of course with writing you have plenty of time. There's no pressure, there's no speed. You can write very, very, very slowly. And then you can go and you can write the same thing again. And then you can show it to somebody and say, is this correct? And they can say, oh no, change this. And then you can write it again. All of that is possible with writing. But here's the problem. For speaking, there is no time. If I walk up to you and I say, hey, how's it going? What did you do yesterday? You have no time to be thinking about grammar. Which tense is it and what do I say? There's no time. You need to answer immediately, instantly, automatically. And when you speak, that grammar needs to be correct automatically. How do they do it if they don't study grammar rules? Well, we talked about it in secret number 1. First of all, they're learning it from phrases, natural phrases. And there's a few other ways that they're learning grammar, which we'll talk about in some of our future secrets or rules. This one is probably the most important rule. And to speak well, you have to have excellent listening. See, speech comes from listening. Here's the problem. In school, you mostly learned with your eyes. What did you do? You read a lot of textbooks. You watched the teacher write a lot of stuff on the board. Maybe you listened to the teacher explain English in your language. So you're hearing your language, not English, in your classroom. When you're just reading and trying to learn grammar rules, for example, by reading grammar books. And you're trying to learn vocabulary by reading vocabulary lists. And you're trying to read English dialogues. And then you're doing written tests. And then you're doing all these written activities and written drills. None of that is helping you with your speaking. And that's why you probably read English much better than you speak it or understand it. Listening, listening, listening is secret number 3, and it's probably the most important one. You gotta listen a lot. You've gotta listen to a lot of English. That's the key to great speaking. There's a lot of research about this, a lot of academic research, excellent research that shows that listening is the way you improve your speaking. Not reading, not practicing speaking in a mirror or something. No, it's lots and lots and lots of listening. Lots of it. Now, this is so obvious, but let's imagine a baby, a little baby. A little American baby, we'll say. And this little American baby, of course, needs to learn English. So how will we teach this American baby to learn English? Will we buy grammar books and try to make the baby study grammar? No, we won't. We could try, but it won't work. Would we try to force the baby to read immediately? Of course not. So how does this little baby learn English? One way and one way only, listening. for 6 to 12 months, that baby just sits there and listens. Listens to the parents mostly, and maybe brothers and sisters, and maybe other people in the family, speaking English constantly. And eventually the baby starts to learn a few words, like mommy, daddy, maybe food, really simple stuff, but they start to learn a little bit. And that's the beginning. And then they start learning, groups of words, 2 words, 3 words together. All of this is happening through listening. And for a while, the baby can understand a lot. The small child can actually understand a lot of English, but cannot speak very much. This is natural and normal, that the listening level is higher than the speaking level. Only use authentic, real English materials. Get rid of all the grammar textbooks, all those with the little fake, conversations in them, and all the nice little graphics and pictures they put in to try to make them seem interesting, when in fact, it's really boring. Because what do those textbooks really have? They got a bunch of fake conversations with boring actors reading them. And then they have a bunch of little boring activities and drills that are supposed to help you improve your communication. It's all bad. It's not going to help you. What you need to do instead is use only authentic, real English materials. What does that mean? Well, when I say real, here's what I mean. I mean, the best materials are the ones that are for native speakers. In other words, books and audios and videos that are made for Canadians, Americans, British people, Australians.
ඉංග්‍රීසි භාෂාව පිළිබඳව බොහෝ දෙනා නොදන්නා වැදගත්ම දෙයක් ඊළඟ වීඩියෝවෙන්.